Hello again, this is Dave Erickson, and joining me today is Dr. Matt Silvers, Assistant Professor here at Whitworth University in the Department of Health Sciences. And today we're talking about techniques, strategies, and tools you can use to finish a marathon. And today's topic has to do with pace and heart rate. And we're going to talk about setting up, or at least understanding a good pace to run in, and as well as heart rate zones. So let's begin with pacing to successfully finish your marathon. What do you want to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think there was a phrase that was coined that really capitulates what the marathon is, and that's that it's a race of patience. And being a race of patience, that means that you have to be really diligent with the pace that you set throughout. So as an example of this importance, a lot of the prominent marathons that are out there will have pace groups to try and keep people from going out too fast. If you go out too fast, you typically burn up additional energy reserves earlier than you need to, and you'll find that before the finish line, you can't maintain whatever that goal pace was for the race. So starting out within your means and either maintaining that or setting it up that you can do negative splits throughout is usually a better strategy for whatever that goal time is.
And one tool you can use is definitely GPS, and you have a run trainer. And how is that important in a marathon?
Yeah, it's great because for instance, I kind of like to do my own thing in marathons. So for instance, pace groups, while I think they're really helpful for a lot of people, for me, I just kind of like to be by myself. And so having GPS allows me to establish pace alerts that tell me whether or not I'm on track with whatever my goal time is. So as an example, if I wanted to run a marathon at 8 30-minute miles, that's what I've practiced in my training runs. I know that's within my means. I can set up the watch in such a way that if I'm going any faster than 8:15 or any slower than 8:45, it will give me little beep alerts. So I don't have to be worried about watching the watch during the race. I literally just have to listen, and if I'm not hearing anything, I know that I'm running at the pace I'm supposed to be.
And is it possible or realistic for someone to expect to negative split a marathon?
Yeah, it is, but I think it all depends on where you start. So as an example, if I've been training to run 8:30 pace, and I start at 8:30 pace, typically that means I'm not going to be able to do negative splits. But if I was to start at, say, 9:15 or 9:30 and then hope to be finishing in the sevens, for many individuals, that's very possible.
Let's talk about heart rate zones, and again, something you can use your run trainer for example, because it'll alert you. But staying within heart rate zones and the fact that your heart rate zone will increase over the duration of a marathon, and why?
Correct. Yeah, that's a concept we call CV drift. So heart rate over extended periods of time will typically start to creep up from what you would expect at a given exercise intensity. So if we were running at 8:30 pace as an example, and that was eliciting a heart rate of, say, 140 beats a minute, after 2 hours, that same exercise pace would probably elicit a heart rate that's slightly higher. And the reason for that is overextended exercise durations, you start to become dehydrated with sweat loss, and as you become dehydrated, your overall blood volume decreases. So as blood volume decreases, the heart has to beat faster to keep circulating oxygen and blood out to the muscles that are working. So we call that concept CV drift, and one of the ways that you can use heart rate, for instance, is to try and gauge how hydrated you are. So if you're staying consistent with your hydration during a long exercise session like a marathon, so hopefully you can prolong CV drift. The goal is to be able to keep that as normal as possible. Normal for any given individual is based on what they're used to with their training. So some people are older, some people are younger, some people are racing at different intensities, and that's all going to affect heart rate. But the key is knowing what a normal heart rate zone is for you, how that corresponds with the pace you can handle, and then being able to monitor that just like you would pace.
And one great thing about that, the run trainer, for example, is that you can set your zones to
Correct.
run within a certain zone throughout a marathon, and it goes 1 through 5. Is it generally a 3 to 4 zone that you want to run a marathon in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, again, it depends on what the goal of the racer is. So for most people who are trying to, quote-unquote, race a marathon, zones 3 and 4, which would be kind of moderate to high intensity heart rate zones, would be very appropriate. For someone who's just trying to finish their first marathon, oftentimes their pace is on the slower end. Zones 1 through 3 might be more appropriate for that individual.
And the great thing about these alerts for heart rate zones, if you start to creep into that zone 5, you'll hear an alert and you'll know I can't go in that because I won't last very long.
Yeah, it takes the guesswork out of it, which is really nice. You just basically have to listen to the watch, and if you hear it beeping, then that's your signal to dial it back a little bit.
Great stuff. Dr. Silvers, thanks very much.
All right, thank you.